Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another event update video because the last couple of days have been very busy, and there's even loads of stuff that I'm not even going to be covering in this video just because I've been busy with so many other things, and in addition to kind of trying to keep up with somewhat with all the gaming announcements and events the last 3, 4, or 5 days. I think there's even one or two more events as I'm recording this yet to come either later Monday, today, or tomorrow. So the original plan was to have this video out on Monday, but I had actually kind of forgotten that I had another video that I will be releasing on Monday instead. So you'll get a bonus Tuesday video, and then hopefully Wednesday we will return to our regularly scheduled programming. And by the time you see this video, there should be Monday's video should be already out, and it is a general kind of accessibility preview or look at Star Wars Outlaws. We'll talk about that more when we cover Ubisoft in a little bit. But like I said, I was invited to be part of a virtual preview event, so I got some B-roll footage that I could talk over, and we looked at their website interview and accessibility announcements. We went through that first, so if you missed it, go check out that video because that would, again, people who watch this channel, if you're interested in accessibility, you're definitely going to want to check that out. So again, this is probably going to be another long one. Actually, I know it is. So, kick back, grab a snack, grab something to drink, and we're going to talk about Microsoft Xbox event, Ubisoft, and then Apple's WWDC. Those are the three things that we are really going to focus on in this video. There were other things like the PC gaming show. I started watching that, but I just couldn't do it. Like, all the other presentations so far have been like, hey, we might say something at the very beginning, and then it was just trailer, game trailer, whatever. But this one, the PC gaming show, they kept going back with all these, the hosts and the cheesy jokes in between, and it was honestly kind of painful. I'm like, you know what? No, we're gonna just catch up on the trailers later, and if something really jumps out at me, that's fine. And there were tons of other like smaller events that I just didn't have time to get through in the last couple of days. So there was like a women in gaming event. There was like there was so many. There was like the Future Games show. I remember watching those in the past. There was like some kind of cozy game show, I believe. I don't remember if that was the name of it, but so there was a good probably at least half a dozen different things, and it's just impossible to follow and keep track of them all. So we're going to focus on, some of the big ones. Of course, I had to cover the FPS Summer Showcase from the other video because, hey, that's my jam. So let's get into Microsoft and Xbox. You know what? I was really curious. I was kind of concerned, to be honest with you. I was kind of concerned that, after all the crap they've gone through in the last several months, they had the whole Activision Blizzard buyout, that whole thing, and then all of the company layoffs I talked about in a fairly recent video, and just they've been getting a lot of bad press for different things lately. And so it's like, man, can they dig themselves out of a hole? Can they kind of save face with their audience and kind of make them interested in Xbox again? And it was a hell of a show. This was one of the best E3 / non-E3 showcases I think I've seen in a long time. It actually kind of reminded me of like a recent Sony presentation when they had a whole bunch of single player games they wanted to show off. Because the other thing that I kind of realized as I was watching this keynote was that a lot of their games, there was some multiplayer, yeah, But there were a lot of pretty substantial single-player games that didn't focus exclusively on seasons and microtransactions and all that other crap that I generally just really don't like. Of course, there was some of that, but pretty impressive. And right off the bat, I will say it was audio described. It worked from the beginning, and it was very well done. So they already won up the Summer Games Fest. That was a whole debacle I talked about the other day. So yeah, audio description was very helpful, especially in getting names of games and release dates and the text that flies on the screen during some of the previews and whatever. So that was a good thing. Just like most of these big events, there was a fair bit of gameplay, but again, I think they focused a little bit too much on CG. They would say in-engine, or whatever, but even when they would say gameplay, yeah, there would be gameplay mixed in to some degree, but there's just a lot of cutscene, it's like, dude, they're games, man. Show me the gameplay. Show me that stuff a little bit more. So, they open up with just a quick little thing on Call of Duty Black Ops 6, because after the main Xbox event, they had about 25-minute deeper dive into that. So we'll talk about that later. So they started with that. I mean, it looked interesting, actually. And then they really kicked off the event. Wow. Doom: The Dark Ages. This is a prequel to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and boy howdy, does it look freaking cool. This is the one trailer that I have in another window that we are going to watch this trailer, because you guys know how much of a Doom fan I am. I mean, my icon is the Doom guy, for God's sake. Toby Doom and all the mods, and any way I can cover Doom, I will cover Doom. But man, oh man, Doom: The Dark Ages is kind of like, what if, Heretic Hexen, but Doom on crack? And yeah, so let's go ahead, and I have this trailer queued up. We're going to watch it real quick. It's a good one. And they did have it audio described. I don't know if there's a separate audio described of just this trailer. Just not in the presentation, but we're panning over some dark, hellish mountains. You got storms, bunch of structures and crazy stuff. I'm not going to do it justice. But you got Doomslayer grabbing his stuff, and he's... Dude, this chainsaw shield thing. I mean, he's got this shotgun and this new chainsaw shield, which is badass. It's like Captain America on crack, because you can throw it out like a boomerang and chop dudes in half. You can deflect bullets with it. Killing mancubuses, whole bunch of grunt enemies and imps. Got your shield, spinning it up like a freaking chainsaw, throwing it out like a bladed boomerang, blocking bullets right there. Oh, this music is great too. Oh man, fuck yes. Got some enemies jumping at you, bashing an enemy, you can do parries now with your shield. Doing sequence of melee attacks, spiked armor. Doom: The Dark Ages. Riding a frickin' dragon, coming 2025. Oh man, I want it. I was hoping maybe that would be a fall release, but we do actually have a fair few fall releases, believe it or not, on Xbox. So, I mean, it's okay, but ooh. And then I did hear after that, an interview that IGN did with Hugo Martin. And it sounds like they're taking a bit of a different turn from Doom Eternal, because some people, and it's weird because people are generally split. You got the people who really like Doom 2016, like myself, and then you have the people who really like Doom Eternal. And Doom Eternal kind of forced you to play like their way. Like you had to learn, the different enemies and like what their weaknesses was and different strategies and like, I mean, which was cool in its own right, but you didn't have sort of the freedom to quite go the way you wanted to all the time, like you could in Doom 2016, because if you didn't do the optimal things, it just wasn't near as effective, and you would be wasting ammo or resources or whatever. And then on top of that, you had all the platforming. Now, they really didn't show much. They showed like you were jumping down on a ledge, you can do like a ground pound with a shield to smash dudes. But again, this is just like basically the first teaser gameplay trailer, and I'm assuming, and I hope they don't just gate it to in-person attendees at QuakeCon, but I would have to imagine that at QuakeCon that we get a kind of a longer gameplay demo sequence, kind of like when they did Doom Eternal and they showed a big old sequence. I remember when that was when he loaded himself into like the cannon and shot himself through the cannon through space. But I'm hoping that it's also not going to focus on as much platform. I mean, you can have platforming, but I hope it's not. I don't want like a dark Super Mario Brothers. I want to shoot dudes, and if I want to use like platforming and dashing to get around an environment, to evade and get toward enemies, that's fine. But these bottomless pits and obstacles and just, I mean, I remember that one area where there's literally fire rods that you could come out of Bowser's castle. I'm just not into that, but this looks badass. Ooh, I'm looking forward to it. I will be there, and hopefully this time, like I said, hopefully there will be less platforming. I'm really hoping that they'll maybe learn and put a little more accessibility in the game. That would be fantastic. And I'm hoping I won't be in a situation where I get dumped on the day of the release, kind of ruining the game. On top of all the gameplay things I didn't like in Eternal. I mean, there were things I loved about Eternal, but the gameplay stuff, and then, getting dumped on the day of release, that was not a good way to remember the game either, but that was a big part of it. But yeah, Doom the Dark Ages, very much looking forward to that. State of Decay 3. I really want to like these games. I played the first one, never really played the second one, I don't think, or was it vice versa? I can't remember. They're these open world zombie games. I know whatever one I did, I think I did a video for it. But you can go and explore, you do missions and whatever, and the whole thing is you're also building up a base. So there's like different other bases, and you can kind of gain favor with them, or if you don't help them or whatever, they'll become your enemies. I like the exploration and everything, but the base management of the game that I played was just kind of inscrutable. I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I just had no interest in it. And it was just so much text that, again, visually, it was a little bit harder to do. So I'm hoping that they, that they add some more accessibility to it. And I know they have to be at least considering accessibility. And I know they're at least considering it, but that's all I'm at liberty to say at this point. Read into that what you will. Dragon Age Veilguard coming out later this year. I don't know what the gameplay is going to be like, because they've sort of evolved it over time. I know when the first Dragon Age came out, it was like more turn-based and whatever. I think Inquisition, or one of the later ones, had a little bit more action or real-time type of gameplay to it. The art style looked interesting, and again, Dragon Age is just one of those games that again, in the turn-based thing, I wasn't super interested. I meant to try Inquisition, but never got around to it. So we'll see, but I want to say that's like around September-ish, if I remember correctly. Starfield, Shattered Space. Yeah, so that is coming out, I think, a little bit later this fall. They do have some DLC out now, or an update out now that adds a few things and fixes some things, and with kind of like, I don't know how much mod support, but like, being able to like get custom items and all that kind of stuff. So kind of a minor update, but then this Shattered Spaces will be coming later this year. And so again, that's a game that I really, really want to like, and there are aspects of it that I do like, but I'm just so bummed because I know Bethesda knows that accessibility is kind of becoming a thing. I talked to somebody at the 2019 Game Accessibility Conference. There was somebody from Bethesda there, so I don't know. They just got to start prioritizing that, and I hope their next game, because they're games I really like. I love Fallout. I love Elder Scrolls, and I want to love Starfield. Maybe once they, kind of iron things out a little bit, maybe I'll check into Starfield at some point again in the future. Fallout 76, Skyline Valley is going to be coming later, and they basically, I think they had some extra content out right now for that too, because they're trying to capitalize. They had the Fallout first season of the series on Amazon Prime, about a month or two ago now? It's just such a blur, I can't even remember. But it was good. Like, even if you've never played the games before, it has audio description. The Fallout series on Amazon Prime is really freaking good. I enjoyed it, and I want to see the season 2. Expedition 33. This is kind of a turn-based RPG. It seemed to have pretty good production values, but again, not sure like if there's some active gameplay to the turn-based combat or what. I don't. If they announced it before this, I don't remember hearing about it. So, and I think it's coming out later this year as well. And I should also mention, not all games, but the vast majority of them, believe it or not, are coming to Game Pass. And that's the weird thing, is I was honestly, with all this negative Microsoft stuff happening and the closures and just, them treating their studios crappily and all of that, I was really almost tempted to just be like, you know what, I'll buy the games that I want to, and I will cancel my Game Pass subscription. But there are so many games, like I said, in this event that I'm interested in playing. Some that I'm for sure interested, but a lot of them that I have maybe some accessibility reservations, and I need to see how accessible they're going to be. And so because of how strong this showcase was, I am probably going to keep with it, because there are a lot of things that I want to try on Game Pass, and maybe I'll buy them later, but I guess I'll bring it up right here. The other thing, we heard the interview with Hugo Martin for Doom, but they also talked with Phil Spencer with IGN, and he kind of tried to sort of give an explanation. He's like, well, I have a tough job, and sometimes we got to look at blah, 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 because they asked him why why did you close? You guys say you want Japanese games. You guys say you want games that do well, smaller games that do well. Well, you had that in the studio that did Ghostwire Tokyo. You had that in the studio that did Hi-Fi Rush. You had that studio that, okay, Redfall flopped, but dude, Prey 2017, the Dishonored series? Fuck, man, why would you close those studios? Like I said, I still am, I'm cautiously optimistic. Yes, I want to play most of these games that we're talking about here today, but my genuine hope is that I'm hoping that, this game didn't make as much money for us, and so, even though it's critically successful, people love it, reviewers love it, are you just going to shit all over that developer, and then after that game launches, you end up closing them anyway? That's my one fear is, yeah, all these games look good, but Microsoft better not close a bunch of these studios, especially if the games actually do well. So I've said my piece on that. South of Midnight is coming in 2025. Now, I think they may have briefly teased this some time ago, but I didn't remember. They showed a little bit of a gameplay sequence. This game looks cool, actually. It's a third-person kind of action-adventure. I don't know how open world it is, but you're this lady in this weird, bayou-type area, and there's these weird, talking... she's riding this talking fish creature thing, and the whole thing was, they're trying to get away from this gator. But, it's, again, third person, traversal, got a grappling hook, you got combat, just their presentation and even the music they use, kind of had that southern vibe to it. It's just it seemed like a really unique setting and premise. And I'm curious what they do with it. It actually looks, I'm pretty interested. And that one I know is also coming to Game Pass. World of Warcraft, Darkness Calls. I really can't speak to anything about that game because what did the game come out in 2003 originally? I have never played World of Warcraft once. God, that's sad. It's been over 20 years. God, I'm old. Oh my God, World of Warcraft came out when I was in college. Hell, actually, if it was 2003, it was about when I graduated college. Good God, I'm old. But yeah, it's another kind of dark expansion for it. If you're into that, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Again, potentially cool. I don't know if it's going to really have much accessibility and stealth. And the problem with this one is a lot of the other Metal Gears were in urban environments. I played a bit of MGS 1 and 2. I watched a friend play Metal Gear Solid 4, and that was pretty sweet. But 3 is a lot more kind of in the jungle and in foresty areas and stuff, and that is the worst type of environment for me to try and do stealth, because if you have camouflage dudes and so much foliage detail, unless you have a high contrast mode or something, that's going to be really tough for me. So we'll see on that one. It looks cool, it looks good, but personally, from an accessibility standpoint, I'm not going to hold my breath. Sea of Thieves Season 13, they're continuing with more content for that, and apparently now you can play a bad pirate dude, and you get this bad, big pirate ship for your true pirate bad guy. Again, it's a game that I kind of want to look into, and I commend them for adding accessibility continually with updates. But as far as blind low vision accessibility, it's really limited a lot toward being on the ship, which is the least interesting part to me. I'm the person who wants to get off the ship and sword slash and shoot skeletons on shore. That's the part I think that I would enjoy the most, and so hopefully they get to that point in the future. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. I'm trying to remember what this is. I think it's some kind of a survival action game thingy, but it's out in July, so it's not too long before it's coming out. I can't really tell you a lot about that one because I don't remember it super well. Age of Mythology Retold, a real-time strategy game, is coming out in September. Again, it's, you have Age of Empires, Age of Mythologies. It could be cool, and I tried. I showed the Age of Empires, was it Age of Empires 2 remaster that had the text-to-speech in it? if I didn't have so many other games I had to play or wanted to get through, I could devote more time to it. But our real-time strategy games are just not really my jam to begin with. They're sort of overwhelming in general for me. And don't get me wrong, adding the accessibility helps so much. Um, but I would be curious if they took what they did in Age of Empires 2, and I'd be curious if they like added controller support and be able to snap between menus and units and different things to make it more blind playable. I don't know what they would if they would do that, but you got your Greek and was it Greek and Roman gods or something like that. Here's a surprise: Perfect Dark. Now, I had a feeling they maybe might show something, but the problem was before this, there were a lot of rumors going around that it was in rough shape. The developers were really having trouble defining like a vision for it. Um, and it's been in development forever. Um, so I didn't know if we would see it or not. And not only did we see it, but we got to see some kind of potential. There's a little bit of hesitation as to whether it's actual gameplay or just sort of like pre-rendered stuff to look like gameplay, kind of like a proof of concept. I would imagine this is coming out maybe late 2025, possibly even 2026 at this point. Because they didn't give a actually, or did they? I'm trying to remember if they had 2025 in there. I don't think they did. But the interesting thing about this, it definitely has more of kind of a realistic look to it this time. Very detailed, which again could be good or bad, especially for accessibility, low vision accessibility. But it looks like they've kind of turned it into an immersive sim. Like think about like your Prey, your System Shock, your Dishonored, but you're using all these gadgets, and you can go stealthy, you can go loud. There's almost like a little bit of Mirror's Edge kind of platforming. Like she runs across roofs and jumps and grabs a pipe. There's a gadget where let enemies or let her see through walls or something. It looks really interesting. It kind of caught me off guard because I thought it was just going to be more of a straightforward mission-based shooter, first-person shooter. But no, it actually seems to be like a first-person shooter immersive sim. And the more I thought about it and the more I kind of reflected on it, I actually really am curious about it and intrigued. And it seems since the event yesterday, a lot of people tend to agree. A lot of people, that was kind of their pleasant surprise of the show. So yeah, Perfect Dark. Hopefully they do well and resurrect the series proper. Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, coming out later this year. That was a pretty gnarly, again, we didn't see any gameplay, but we know what Diablo is. They were showing, there was a character that I recognized from the main campaign, which I still have yet to finish, but I did get far enough. I know who the character is. I can't remember her name, but she kind of had a nickname from her family, so I knew who she was. But yeah, she was going through some gnarly stuff. So yeah, there was some pretty graphic, demonic things happening in that trailer. But yeah, that is coming out later this year. And I really, really need to try that game again because I have not picked it up since Season 4, where they totally revamped how all the weapons and stuff work. So I don't even know when I'm going to find time to do that. Fable, 2025, I believe they said. And they showed little gameplay snippets, but it was mostly just CG. But I like the tone, I like the humor. There was kind of this older hero that was talking about one of his students that went evil, and just his whole sort of humorous telling of the tale. He's like drinking a tankard in this dark room. He's like, blah 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 blah. And takes a drink and just throws the tankard over his shoulder, and it was just kind of a humorous thing. But I'm very intrigued because I really liked the Fable games before, and again, that's another one that I hope they do justice to when they bring it back. So very much looking forward to that reboot. Uh, oh, Frag Punk. This one, if they make the cards, if they add text to speech, it could maybe be workable. But this is a multiplayer game, multiplayer first person shooter of some sort. But again, kind of like how Back for Blood used decks and cards to give you perks and stuff, this game sort of does that as well. And so you can get different abilities or perks. Like one of them that was humorous was they had a big head mode, so all of your enemies would have big heads. So you could. I remember that used to be like in the N64 days. That would be a very common cheat code that games would add, and I'm like, why would you do that? Like that just sounds dumb. But now that I think about it, in a first-person shooter, big head modes means easier headshots. So that's interesting. So I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, but we'll see. Winterborough. This was a kind of a 2D overhead type of game. Kind of had a, I don't know if it's a hand-drawn style, but not a realistic style, but you're kind of wandering around the wilderness and surviving and crafting, and I think it was like a mouse character or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, it could be interesting. There was a lot of kind of bright white or bright backgrounds in a lot of the UI, so we'll see on that one. But that one also I remember is coming to Game Pass. So Mixtape. This one isn't coming out till next year either, but I'm kind of curious. I don't exactly know what kind of game it'll be. I would sort of almost have to imagine maybe like a Life is Strange type of game, or like a, kind of an adventure-y type of thing. They showed a lot of people on skateboards. They showed some people, on like a road trip or walking around. It looks like some third-person stuff. But again, it was like this like 80s, 90s era thing, and it was kind of kids just being, teenagers being teenagers, sneaking out and like romances and causing mischief, or kind of just teenagers being teenagers. Like I said, had a really kind of unique style and vibe to it. So yeah, I'm into it. And that's also a Game Pass, so I will be checking that out hopefully. Flight Simulator 2024, a new edition of that is coming out. I know they had some accessibility in the previous version, but again, there's a couple things that kind of scare me away from that. Is, this one was kind of neat because they focused on different careers that you could do. So if you wanted to be like a commercial pilot, a crop duster, like an EMT, flying helicopters or planes or package deliveries, or any different number of things. But like, the games are super, super complex and detailed, and like you need a high-end graphics card so your computer doesn't melt. But it's, of course it's on Xbox as well. But like, the whole flight sim is how detailed it is, and I don't know if I have the patience to sit and try to learn the takeoff and landing sequences and all the other weird stuff that you have to do. Like, if I'm going to fly something, it has to be pretty straightforward and simple. That's not kind of my thing. I mean, I totally respect it for what it is, because it looks incredible. And I'm sure it also takes up probably 700 gigs of space, because the game seems like it's got to be huge. So yeah, neat in theory, but probably not one that I'm going to focus on. Elder Scrolls Online, kind of a 10-year anniversary. They said for a limited time, a lot of their extra, either paid expansion content you can play for free. That's another one that I just, again, with a monthly fee and everything, I don't even know if you can play it without a monthly fee now. But it's just, again, MMOs or monthly fee games, I'm just generally not into. I love the Elder Scrolls, but it's just one I've never gotten around to even trying. Like, part of me wants to check it out, but then I think about it and go, when the hell am I going to find time to devote to that? Life is Strange Double Exposure. This one, I know I covered both Life is Strange 1 and 2 on the channel, There is another game, True Colors, which I haven't even played yet. But this one, you're returning to Max Caulfield, who was in the first game, and that was a pretty interesting story. That one, the whole thing with those is like they're kind of like teen drama type of thing, adventure games, but they have a supernatural element to them. So like the first one I could rewind time. The second one I could have one of the kids had a kind of a telekinesis power and whatever. So they always have some sort of a supernatural element to it. And this one, they do have a kind of like parallel dimensions or parallel universes. So like, oh, in one universe her best friend is dead, and one of them she's alive. So she's trying to figure out like how to prevent in the one, and then how to solve it for the other one. And I don't know, it could be interesting. I like the Life is Strange games. Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, coming out later this year. Hopefully, they didn't give an exact date unless it slips. Probably October, November, if I had to guess. They've been focusing a lot on story cutscenes, which admittedly were good. We did get a little gameplay, but it's first person for the most part. I think they're going to have like third person when you're climbing ladders or doing things like that, kind of like the Chronicles of Riddick games did. But the tone and the vibe they got, I think they are nailing the whole Indiana Jones style. And I like the idea of, punching dudes in the face, using my whip, probably using guns to some degree. I hope there's some maybe assistance for the puzzle solving aspect, because that's a big Indiana Jones thing, and I'm terrible at puzzles, so we'll see. I'm hoping they have some sort of accessibility in that game, but it looks really pretty strong. So yeah, that's coming out later this year. Mecha Break. This one, they showed it at another show that I think the Summer Game Fest the other day. This one I saw a little bit more footage, and I don't know if it's like an MMO type thing or just a multiplayer type game. Part of me wants to give it a shot because it looks pretty cool. You got a whole bunch of different types of mechs and customizations, and you got heavy mechs that are slower but more powerful. You've got lighter ones that can zip around. You've got like ranged and melee weapons for them, and you're zipping around pretty quick. So like it looks kind of fun. If it is multiplayer based, I don't know if there's a single player mode or not, but I don't know. I might have to find out more about that. Research that game a little bit more. Wulon Fallen Feathers, or I think I wrote it down kind of weirdly. It's a melee action game, I believe. I think it's coming out pretty soon as well. I don't really have a lot else to say about it. It's one that I might kind of casually keep my eye on, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Avowed, I believe they kind of leaked that was coming in November this year. I believe this is from the people who made Outer Worlds, I think. But it's like a first-person action RPG that's really focused on magic. And they showed, there's a lot of magical things happening, like casting spells and stuff in this. So I really want it to be good. I am curious about it. It is coming to Game Pass, so I will definitely check it out. Atomfall. I think this might be another survival action game kind of a thing. A lot of survival elements, but I don't know a lot about this one. I don't remember if they showed a lot of gameplay for it. Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'll talk about that more in the Ubisoft show, but I really liked Valhalla. I wish there was, again, a little bit more accessibility for like waypoints and in-world navigation assists, but I gotta say, like, especially since Valhalla, this is the one. Everyone's wanted that franchise to go to Japan, and it's going to Japan. So, and what I saw at Ubisoft looked pretty good. We'll talk about that later. Stalker 2 in September. I tried the original Stalker, and it was just, it had a little bit of jank to it. It seemed a little rough around the edges, and there was just a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of UI and trying to figure out your way around the world, what you were supposed to do. I struggled with it as a low vision player. Stalker 2 actually looks really good visually. Now, I don't know if they're going to have an English voice acting option, because the guy that you were with, or that I heard a lot of characters in gunfights, and then, like I said, the guy that your main character was with for a little bit, was speaking in a totally different language. She had to read subtitles, and again, that's kind of a big pitfall for me, because I can't read them quick enough. So I will, maybe, if I'll have to live vicariously through somebody else, or watch somebody else play it, more than likely. Then they had a digital series. They had a couple of new systems coming out later this fall. We got a couple of like different storages. I didn't get a chance to write them down, but they're having like a digital Series X with different. So they're really going this whole digital only route. That seems to be what they're going, because you got the digital stuff, you've got the cloud, you've got the remote play stuff. So yeah, they're doing a lot of Game Pass. So that's kind of what they're doing. And then they wrapped it up with a teaser for Gears of War E-Day, or Emergence Day. So they kind of did a unique spin on the Mad World theme, which was just a super iconic, very memorable. The song, I forget who did that version of it, but people have been sharing that on social media lately. I watched it a couple times on Twitter when it came up. No gameplay, just kind of a lot of like CG or whatever, but they had Marcus and Dom. This is a prequel, of course, Emergence Day. I'm looking forward to it, especially since, they tried to do some stuff with one of their modes in their latest game for blind accessibility, one of their multiplayer modes. So if they can add more of that to the single player, because they're developing the game from scratch here, that would be fantastic. So that was Microsoft. Honestly, like I said, the vast majority of games I either want to play a lot, or I am at least curious enough to definitely want to try them. And especially since the majority of them are also coming to Game Pass day one, there's really no reason for me not to. And since we're done with one event, I'm going to pause for a second and get a drink of water. But yeah, I think that could have been the best Microsoft show I've seen in ages. Hell, it's one of the best presentations I've seen a big company like that do in a while. They kind of embarrassed Sony at their state of play this year. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very much looking forward to Astrobot, but otherwise, not really a lot going on in Sony land. But again, I really hope, again, they had that event early last year, when they did Hi-Fi Rush, and they got some good press, and then they kept, over the next year, Xbox just sort of kept putting their own foot in their mouth and saying stupid things, doing stupid things. So as much good press and goodwill as they've gotten here this weekend, I hope they don't fall back. I hope they don't screw it up again, because if they deliver on a lot of these titles, if they're good, Microsoft's got a lot of great first-party content coming in the next 2-3 years. So we now move on to Ubisoft. This one didn't have near as many games, so we will talk about that. Oh, right, the Call of Duty thing. Right, yeah. So I will talk about that briefly. So typically, I'm not super into the Call of Duty thing. I respect it for what it is. I just, again, I never really played the multiplayer. I might have tried it briefly during the original Modern Warfare 2 days on the 360, but it's just never been my thing. I played the Modern Warfare 1 and 2 campaign. I think I didn't even play much of the other ones. I never played Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops, any of those, or what they have, like Future Warfare, Infinite Warfare. I was hoping that they would announce that a lot, like, I would love to be able to, now that they're in game, or that they own Activision, I would love to have the ability to just go play past campaigns through Game Pass, because they've had Steam sales for Call of Duty, but even, like, if you want to play catch up on all those, it was like 100, and, even at a deep sale, if you wanted to basically pick up the collection, it was 150, $200 to catch up on everything. So, I don't know. And since I'm not really into multiplayer, it's like maybe I want to play through one of the campaigns at some point. But Black Ops 6 actually looks kind of cool. Of course, they didn't say anything about accessibility. But one thing that I sort of liked is they mentioned this whole... did I write it down here? No, I didn't write it down. I forget what they called it, but there was this whole... They focused on movement. So now you can do a lot more... You can move around a lot quicker, a lot easier. You can dash or run in any direction. You can kind of slide, you can do prone stuff, you can aim, in 360 degrees while doing all that stuff. It sounds like they're just kind of really making a lot more just like approachability, like maneuverability, to make it more fun to move around. They did talk about, assist controls for like mantling or different, I forget it was like, mantling, climbing, a couple other things, just, to make things easier, and like you're focusing on doing the thing, not how to do the thing. And interestingly, they had mentioned Forza Motorsport. They looked at like, look, the driving assists and all those different things. They actually looked at some of the accessibility settings for a driving game and like, what if we applied that to movement for our first-person shooter? So that was sort of neat. Beyond that, I don't know what other accessibility features, if any, they will implement. But, October 25th, I guess we'll find out. I already mentioned I didn't watch the PC gaming show. I tried for a few minutes, but it was just too cheesy, and I had other things I wanted to do. But the one thing we did get out of that, which they put out pretty early on, and I saw the trailer on YouTube, Fallen Aces. I've talked about that several times. I've covered the demo. The episode 1 is coming out. We got a release date for it. And not only did they announce the release date, it's coming soon. This coming Friday. Literally like 4 days away as I'm recording this. Ooh, yeah. And even better, I'm going to have some days off early next week. So, yeah, I got some Sulaco. I got me some... Fallen Aces. I got some accessible games I learned about at the accessibility showcase. I have a funny feeling there's going to be a fair bit of gaming in my future in the next week or so once I get through all this making videos for all the stuff that's been happening lately. Fallen Aces, my friends, finally coming out in early access, episode 1 this week. Yeah. And now we move on to Ubisoft. So they opened with an orchestra. They had them play toward the beginning and then also toward the end of the show. Battlecore Arena. This was something that I caught kind of right before the beginning of it. This one's sort of weird. It's like a action-y thing, but it's a platformer, and it's multiplayer, and it's like you're these weird little spheres or cores, as they call them. They got faces on them. And I don't know, I guess there's like different modes and stuff. It seems kind of weird, but I think it's free to play. So it looks just intriguing enough that I'll at least check out more footage of it, and maybe I'll give it a shot one day. Star Wars Outlaws, as I said, by the time this video is out, you should already be able to watch my I didn't get to play anything, but I did get to see some extra footage and talk about its potential accessibility, and it's coming out in just a couple of months. And at the Ubisoft show, they even showed some additional footage from from a different mission that I even saw. So they even covered something new that I hadn't seen yet. So yeah, I mean, this game, it looks fairly open world, like in the show they did today. They started out in one place, and then they flew a ship again, did some dogfighting, where they were looking around some towns. They flew from space into Tatooine and explored a little bit of that. They showed some more of like the speeder bike a little bit, little stealth, a little bit of combat. It's looking really good. I just wonder how huge it's going to be. Like I said, some of these bigger games, as cool as they are, I just wonder how in the hell I'm going to get through them all. But Star Wars Outlaws, it's looking really pretty good. And the more I see it, the more I'm interested in it. And again, seeing what Ubisoft put on their website as far as accessibility goes, I am even more wanting to play it. X-Defiant, they're adding a new season to that, and they're adding Capture the Flag. I don't know. It's a first-person shooter, but it's just, again, multiplayer kind of a thing, team-based stuff. It's just, it's not really as much my jam. I haven't followed it. Skull and Bones, you know, I mean, we have Sea of Thieves, you know, that has on-ship and off-ship gameplay. This is pretty much just you're on the ship, and like I said, this is kind of the least interesting to me. You know, you're battling ships, ship to ship. I mean, graphically it looks pretty good, but it's just not really my jam. Not a game I'm too much into. But they're coming out with some content for that. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown update. There's an update for that. And then there's a Mask of Darkness content update, so like new missions and new challenges and stuff. That is coming out in September. Again, that's a really challenging game that I would like to get back to. I really kind of like the whole Metroidvania factor of it, and they did have some high contrast modes and other accessibility features in it. It's really funny because I don't know. I see fairly often on Twitter, I'll see like, oh, there's no good games to play. I'm like, what are you smoking? I can't even begin to play everything that I would want to play. Like, there's no way that I could play everything that I would want to check out. There's tons of, like, even a few more AAA games now, but like, there's indie games galore. Rogue Prince of Persia, that I think just got another update, and it's, I believe, yeah, Temple of Fire. I can't remember if that's out now or if it's coming out very soon. So it's a new gameplay zone, new gameplay area. I do have the game. I did pick it up on a sale, and it's just one of those that I have not gotten around to playing yet. So this is not the one that I covered in January. This is a new one that came out literally like 2 weeks ago. And this is another one that seems to be in kind of a development hell, or I've heard problems with it, but they did another new teaser for Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. They're doing a remake of that, but that's not coming out until 2026. I mean, they didn't show any gameplay. It was just maybe like a 10-second teaser. So we'll see what happens with that. I love the original Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, probably my favorite of the series, although that one that they just called Prince of Persia, that was on the 360, that was also really good. That was really fun, the one we were collecting all the orbs and stuff. That was also really good. So yeah, and that series is 35 years old, I think they said. Jeez. Yeah, just keep making me feel old. And then they had a few, they did a little sizzle reel for some existing games that are getting new content and whatnot. Rocksmith Plus, there's a little, not even really a demo, but there's a free starter. You can basically download and play like the initial parts for free to kind of get an idea, like an extended demo. And I love the idea of this, learning the piano and guitar, like they have different modes for those, but again, there's not an audio accessible way, and I can't see well enough to see the tablatures and all the other notations and stuff. So I love that you have a video game that's doing this, like teaching you like not just Rock Band guitars or Guitar Hero guitars, but like the real instrument, but I just can't see well enough to play it. But that's okay, because I have my drums that I'm rather addicted to right now. Avatar Frontiers of Tomorrow. I have not picked that up yet. I'm hoping it goes on sale on the PC at some point, because I mean, it looks visually, it looks incredible. I'm a casual Avatar fan. I like the first movie. I don't know why people hated the first one as so much as they did. I really didn't care for the second one as much, to be honest. I still actually prefer the first one. But yeah, it's a first/third person action game, shooter, whatever. I will check it out likely at some point. Skybreaker DLC is coming out in July for that game, so there's more content, new area for that. The Crew Motorfest, again, it's a game that I did actually get from Ubisoft, but I couldn't play it. I got their PC version, but it wouldn't let me play it because they wanted me to enable some weird kernel level thing for security and anti-cheat, and I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not gonna, just for some game anti-cheat thing, I'm not gonna disable kernel level security. In this day and age, that seems like a really stupid plan. So, as much as I wanted to cover that game, unless they back off on that, or unless the software finally allows a workaround for that game, like an exception to that to play that game, I can't play it. And they announced this chase mode that looked kind of fun. You had the cops and drivers, and you're chasing them, trying to take them down. They had this whole like dog and cat chase thing during the trailer. So yeah. Anno 117. This is kind of like some kind of big strategy game that seems really incomprehensible to me. I know the Anno series I see that on Steam all the time. I can't tell you anything about that other than that it's a game I will probably not play. For Honor, there's some new stuff coming for that. I don't know, that one I may have to check out at some point, but I just haven't had a chance. Brawlhalla, kind of a fun little multiplayer game. Kind of a, it's like a Smash Brothers type of game, but with different characters from different franchises. I like the games in theory, but again, when they zoom in and out and the level pans or whatever, there's so much happening. It's really hard to keep track of for me visually, so I just, as much as I maybe would like to try those games more, that's why I don't really play Smash either, because it's too hard to see and keep track of. I guess there's a Monopoly game coming out later this year. It's kind of got this 3D look to it. You're going around the board, and there's stuff in the middle and whatever. I don't know. I mean, if it would add accessibility, I mean, it would be a fun time waster. I mean, I don't mind a game of Monopoly, especially if I don't have to set up all the pieces and read the cards and stuff. Trackmania is getting another desert track, or a desert zone. That's a game that I think the new one, I think you have to either pay a subscription for or something like that. I love the original Trackmania games. They were fun. They were challenging. You got these user-created levels. The whole kind of stunt track sort of a thing. You're competing for time instead of just competing for places. But Trackmania, I would like to play that some more. Riders Republic, they were showing some new winter content, like snowboarding and skiing and whatever. Again, it's a game that I would kind of like to play more, but just getting around the place a little bit easier, and I was kind of terrible at it when I was playing it before, so you never know, I might come back to it at some point. And then they ended with Assassin's Creed Shadows. They had a pretty lengthy gameplay sequence, and there's two characters that you play as. There's like a bigger male character, and he seems to be more about like, hey, we're going in and I'm just going to cut dudes up, which is kind of my jam. He had this like big heavy weapon. They were in this village or town, and you're this samurai, and you're walking through the streets. People are kind of bowing to you in respect, and then these guys try to block your way, and you just get into this these brawls, and it is pretty damn violent. Like, you're literally decapitating people, stabbing people through the gut, whatever. I mean, it's pretty gnarly, but it looks really fun. So he's kind of your more play it loud kind of character. And then the female character, she's wants to be more stealthy, and so they showed a night sequence where she's sneaking through an area, taking out guards silently, shutting down or turning off lamps, breaking lamps so kind of distract people, using a grappling hook again. I mean, again, most of the time, it depends on how the stealth is implemented. If it's easy to see, how forgiving is it? Is it instant fail? But I don't know. There's things about both that look actually pretty fun because if the stealth is accessible, like in The Last of Us, or even I played through Splinter Cell Chaos Theory and loved it. So, and I even played that game. I beat it on normal, and I went back to, I think I got about halfway through it on hard, and then I just got distracted and never finished it. But yeah, I was doing pretty good in Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. So I don't know. I mean, if they offer different visual modes or tools, this is probably the most I've been interested in an Assassin's Creed game in a while. Like I said, Valhalla was pretty cool, but I'm digging this Shadows. Unfortunately, they did not show anything with Splinter Cell. I really keep hoping that they go back and maybe even do a reboot. Don't do all the day missions. Go for again, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, even Conviction. I really like Conviction as well. Those two were my favorite. Sam Fisher was cool. And those vision modes he had on his visor. Maybe one day they'll bring it back. But that is Ubisoft, and we have one more event to talk about. Apple, their WWDC keynote. Oh, they did also mention Ubisoft Plus. You're going to get some early access to some games. There's some restrictions on other titles, like instead of getting season passes and things like that. So again, it's your Ubisoft subscription service if you want to do that. So they had a little cheap plug at the end for that. I should also mention that presentation also had audio description that worked flawlessly, so that was also very welcome to hear. Keeley's got to tighten up the ship on that for the Game Awards, because they totally biffed it this summer. But on to Apple, and then I think we're done recording videos for a while. They started with Apple TV. Not really. They spent just a couple minutes on that. I mean, they're like, oh, we have this content, we have that content, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't too much there. The funny thing is, I literally canceled my Apple TV Plus subscription that I think I gotten when I got a new device, or I got the subscription through somehow. But I got an email from them literally a couple days ago that said it was going up to like $100 a year, and I'm just like, if I watched more on it, maybe, but like I don't hardly watch anything on it, and so I actually just canceled my Apple TV Plus subscription. Literally within the last couple of days. So we'll see. Then they went to Vision OS, or the Vision OS and the Apple Vision Pro. They talked a lot about, this was another short segment, but they talked about spatial photos, and like you can take an existing photo and AI will kind of generate like two separate, slightly different photos to make it look spatial, kind of like a 3D type of deal. They had some new gestures for accessing quick things like your home screen and whatnot. So they added a couple of new gestures. Better Mac support, so you can have like multiple screens, or you can have bigger screens. Again, if you're in that ecosystem, you've got a Mac and everything, I could imagine that being pretty cool. But Again, they really didn't spend much time on it. That's about it. Some about new Apple immersive content, your video, and I'm not sure about games and stuff. But like I said, I'm really interested in a lot of the non-gaming, like educational or exploratory, non-fiction type of virtual reality, mixed reality content. That's kind of cool to me. Then we go into iOS 18. I'm just going to breeze through. I did write down the different kind of things that they talked about. I'm probably not going to spend much time on them, but so you can customize the home screens now. Like you can, before you could have like a picture for your background on your lock screen and on your home screen. But let's say if you don't have a lot of icons on your home screen, I do. But if you didn't, and let's say the photo had more interesting things to look at, like your person's face at the top of the screen or in the center of the screen, you can kind of now rearrange so all of your icons are around the edges, or you can arrange not just in a set grid, like you can arrange them in more ways. You can also keep your widgets on there. They said they added something for like a dark theme, so when you're using a dark theme, it appears better. You can also change to other colors, so you can kind of give your icons can have sort of like a colored accent to kind of complement or match your wallpaper, if that's a thing, or you can choose your own colors. Control Center, this is kind of interesting actually. You can have multiple Control Center pages now, so you can kind of scroll up and down, and you have like a one for home, like all your home controls. If you do automation, you can have your device settings. You can have, I don't know, like you can customize different Control Center things, and I guess it's supposed to have third-party apps. So what might be cool, I wonder if I can mix and match, because if I could take some things out of the first home screen that I don't use, or the first Control Center, and put them on a different one. But I could keep my volume, I could keep my Wi-Fi, I could keep my a couple things that I use. I use a magnifier all the time, so I use that shortcut. But if I could, put some third-party apps on the Control Center, just or you can use if you have a newer phone, you can use that little shortcut button to trigger those as well under Control Center. So like, maybe I could use the shortcut button to just bring up magnifier or bring up Be My Eyes or something. That'd be cool. So we'll see how that goes. You can lock an app now. So if you don't want people to access content in one of your apps, you can lock it down. So if they try, they have to enter the passcode or use Face or Touch ID to be approved. You can also hide apps now. So, maybe you downloaded some weird, I don't know, anime. Well, they don't really allow porn on the App Store, but something you're embarrassed, you don't want other people to see or whatever, or if it's really top secret or whatever, you can put it into this private folder so people can't, hidden folder where people can't see it. More specific contacts support for apps. So now when you when I did the Meta glasses, if you wanted access to my contacts, you either gave it access to everybody or you really didn't give it anything. But now you're going to be able to say, I want my app, or I want a specific app to only access certain contacts. So I could see some uses for that, especially when you set up a phone for somebody who is older or newer to technology, and it's like, okay, if you want to use this app, then you can just contact these and these people. You don't have to be worrying about everybody in there. So there's that. You can schedule a message. So maybe, I'm going to be busy tomorrow, but I don't want to forget to wish somebody a happy birthday. You could schedule a text message for that kind of a thing. You got emojis and text effects and messaging. Again, I don't really care. I use VoiceOver so much, but They this whole thing with like custom emojis, and they talked about that in the AI section later. I've never been really into emojis much. Like, I just use your words, man. Satellite to text. They had the satellite support for some of the emergency stuff, and now if you're in like a low or no coverage area, you can connect to satellite to send text messages. So there's that. Mail and device categorization. This might actually be kind of handy, because the examples they gave were like, oh, you want to filter your inbox basically by, you want to sort it automatically by people that you regularly contact, or receipts and confirmations, or news, promotional emails that you get from a store or something. So, common categories like that, I can see that being semi-useful. I might actually use that to a degree. Topographic maps in Apple Maps. That's cool, I guess. Tap to cache. This is kind of cool because now I could just open up, like, say, my Apple Pay or my Apple Wallet app, and then I don't even have to have their contact information or add them as a contact. As long as they're, near you. Let's say you go to work with a colleague or a friend and you don't have their information in your phone, you just tell it how much you want to send them, and then you just, boop, touch your phones together, and then it'll send it over to their device. You don't even have to have their contact information. So I could even see this being handy. Maybe you're at a conference and you're selling little items, and instead of using, having to go through like a separate payment system, you could just use Apple Pay for some users. You get update to events and tickets, so like you get better ticket information, and then there's venue information for when you get there, like, oh, here's some vendors you might be interested in, or like you go to a concert and you want to know, like, oh, maybe there's a good merch shop, or you want to get a drink or some food, whatever. Photo redesign again, so they're adding different collections, filters and collections. There's a people and pets thing, so it's like, oh, I want to see just the photos with these people or this person, or even my favorite pet. I can pull up just pictures or sort pictures with those in them. They talked about AirPods a little bit, so I guess you can shake your head or nod your head to confirm or deny certain things if it's asking you things you can't talk for whatever reason. Spatial audio for AirPods in games. I wish that wasn't just for AirPods. Like, it sucks that you have to have AirPods, because I don't like sticking things in my ear, and I want to be able to use that type of feature. But you can't just use any Bluetooth headset. You got to have AirPods. That's a real bummer. I mean, maybe if they make an updated version of their whatever AirPods, no, not AirPods Pro, whatever their big headphones were that were like $500. But I don't know. And then they have this insight for Apple TV thing. If you're watching Apple TV content, it's just for that. It's kind of like your Amazon X-Ray, which I've actually found helpful. I'm watching a video on Amazon, whether I bought it or bought it through the Amazon store. If I'm just streaming it, I can pause the video and I can look at, that's that actor who was playing this character, or what song is playing right now, or there'll be like a factoid or something. So again, just Apple bringing something similar to their service. Then we move over to Watch OS 11. A lot of again, fitness and health stuff. They have a training mode for workouts. So if you're really active and you want to compare like how well you did now versus yesterday or over time, you can set kind of like a extreme or light workout depending on, maybe you got injured or something, and so you have to take a break for a little while. There's that. And I jokingly added, there's still no drumming workout. I still have to go to other for that. They have all these other different categories, but I do, when I do drumming, I put it on the other workout thing just to, like, okay, that's just a way I can track some activity. I also do like a elliptical. I've got one of those office elliptical things. It's not the standing ones because I don't have room for it, but I got another one of those office ellipticals, and I do that pretty like almost. I've been doing it every day, and unfortunately that doesn't really move your arm, so it doesn't track. But I wish there was a way to track that. Then they added a vitals app, so it's kind of keeping track of just your overall health and when you're sleeping and all that kind of stuff. It'll let you know if certain aspects of your health that it monitors changes over time. So that could be helpful. Smart Stack, their whole I don't know, I don't really like their Smart Stack compared to the way your crown used to work. I think I liked that better, but I've kind of gotten used to it over the last year. But I guess they're doing some more updates to that and more contextual updates. Like, we noticed that you go out during this time of day, but yeah, we'll let you know that it's going to be raining soon. So they might just push that into your smart stack so you see it right away. And that was about it. And then we go on to iPad OS. This tab bar, it's kind of like this floating bar that has access to, I guess, some quick controls and features. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but and then if you expand it, it has like the whole bunch of like menu along the left side. This one was kind of interesting. I guess I never tried it. They had this screen sharing thing on iPad or something, or they're gonna have it, I know. And this one, I guess, like if you're trying to help somebody, you can like draw on the screen, but like point at an arrow, say no, this, you click on this button here, and then you can also request remote control of their iPhone or iPad, which could be very useful. Especially, I'm curious if controlling it remotely will be voiceover accessible. Because if I could just, God, every so often I'll get a call from my mom and she's like, I don't know what I did to my phone, or how do I get into this? How do I make this thing work? And I can just be like, dude, okay, you know what? Just let me remote control your phone, and let me do it for you, because I don't want to spend the hour and a half it's going to take to try to walk you through it when I can do it in 5 minutes. So, I hope that is voiceover accessible, because I could see that being, hell, even pretty handy at work. Like if, I'm working with a client and they have a question and could do remote or like for remote training or remote support, that could be cool. They added the calculator to the iPad finally. Only, 10, 15 years in? That's funny. But it's kind of like the Windows calculator. You've got like your scientific mode, you got like your unit conversions. They didn't specifically mention a graphing calculator mode, but then they did go into this other math notes, as they called it, where they had some sort of like diagram or something. She was talking about like she was analyzing some tennis thing. And then it generated a graph based on like if she was moving her arm, or how she moved, how she hit the ball or whatever. So there may be some graphing capability. I'm not quite sure how that's all going to play into it, but I would have to imagine that's also going to be voiceover accessible. So that's pretty cool. And this math note, it works with the Notes app as well. So I guess you can do, I wonder if that might, depending on how it works. They were talking mainly about using Apple Pencil with it. But if you can somehow, type using either the keyboard or on-screen keyboard, I wonder if this could be a potential way to help make math more accessible for blind users. I don't know. So it's something I'll have to kind of take a peek at some point. Then they talked about like with they focused on some pencil stuff, the math things, and then they had this feature where it kind of learns the way you handwrite. And so like let's say you have something really, really crucial that you want to write down, and so you're just writing really fast and sloppy. it'll kind of learn the way that you write, and you can write just super fast so you can get your thought down. But then it'll, instead of just cleaning it up and putting it into typed text, it can it'll put it so that it looks like it's your handwriting, but it'll be your normal handwriting instead of your quick chicken scratch. And then they said if you paste, let's say you copy and paste something into the notes, you can actually have it look like it was your handwriting, which is sort of interesting because if I was a student, I would see some really weird, interesting cheating potential for that. But anywho, I don't know, it's kind of neat, I suppose. And then they moved on to Mac OS Sequoia, as I guess what they're calling the new Mac OS. Now this feature is kind of cool. iPhone mirroring, where literally, let's say I have my phone charging in my bedroom, but if I had my Mac out in the living room, I could literally go down to the little dock in the bottom, and I could click my phone, and I could literally it would just pop up my phone, and I could control it with the touchpad. It's amazing that there's not a, you'd think there would be some sort of like a touchscreen capability on a computer, on a laptop, but Apple hasn't figured that out yet. And that could just be one-to-one. I could touch things on my touchscreen right on my iPhone on my Mac. But nope, they don't have that. But it is cool because not only can you just view it, but you can literally like control it. You can open apps, or like, maybe I normally order Jimmy John's, or I order pizza or something, and I can just, I'm not in front of my phone, but I can just do it from my computer on my phone, and then I'm got it. You can get notifications on your Mac, so you can not only get them, but then when you tap them, let's say you get they use the Duolingo notification example where they gave you a notification about that, and you tap it, and then it opens up your phone on your Mac, and then you can do your check-in, do your language practice, so you keep your streak going, and then move on your way. And all while doing this, your phone stays in lock mode, so it doesn't actually wake up your phone. It stays locked so other people can't mess with it, but you can do it remotely on your Mac. So that's really cool. I mean, I know it'll never happen, but I'd love to see that actually, even in a limited way, come to Windows. Because, I mean, yeah, I know they want to have it all in their ecosystem and everything, but the thing is that, everyone, they expect everyone to use a Mac, but like, especially for business, there's a lot of businesses, like we often, like for our state agency, we work with iPhones, but we're a Windows organization. We have Windows computers, so do many, I mean, I've been doing this for almost 15 years at this job. God, that's scary. And, I can count the number of Mac employment jobs that we've worked with people on one hand. So the vast majority of the business world works in a PC environment. So, it would be just really nice to be able to, check, even to be able to see and respond to text messages. I can just type on my, I can tap the message, bring up like a simple messages app on my Windows, and I could type a reply. The other thing that I would love to see, and I was talking to my friend about this the other day, is, we have a Files app. We've had that for a while now. And I understand if you don't want to add, access to the whole phone, but really, even on a Windows computer or a Mac or Linux computer, why can't I plug my iPhone into a lightning cord or a USB-C cord, depending on the phone, plug it at the other end into my computer, and why do I have to use iCloud or anything? Like, why can't I just, without a separate utility, just make the Files app section of your phone show up as a thumb drive? Let it show up as removable storage, and then I can copy files and folders on and off of my phone, on and off my computer. I shouldn't have to use a special utility just to do it. I mean, like I said, you don't access your whole phone, but anything in your Files app should be fair game. Like, why can't I access that? That would just be because that would actually make sense. We talked about iPhone notifications. Presenter preview. I'm trying to remember what that was. Oh, that was the thing where, like, if you're on a FaceTime or a Zoom call, you want to make sure you're only sharing what you wanted to share, and that that you're looking decent, or you're in camera. There are backgrounds, so if you don't want to see the clutter behind you, you can just filter it out. What? Oh, the passwords app. Yeah. So yeah, they rumored that. But there's and this is going to be on everything: Mac, iOS, iPad, and they're even putting it on iCloud for Windows. So they're having a passwords app, so you can manage and store all of your passwords and credentials and whatever. So it's kind of, I think it's going to be like an equivalent to something like all of your password managers, which could actually be helpful because I find myself using the iCloud or the password keychain thingy more often lately. Safari highlights feature. They talked a little bit about Safari. So you can they already had the reading view, but now I guess they've improved it some. You can do summaries now. There's a viewer for videos, so it's like it gets rid of all the clutter and just focuses on video content if you have embedded video. And then we get into the fun stuff. Apple Intelligence. This is what we were all waiting to hear what would happen. So that is what they're calling their AI. And they are making Siri's theoretically smarter. They did show a couple of examples. And you don't have to say everything rigidly like a robot anymore. You can, even if you stumble through your words or you change your mind halfway through, you're like, oh, give me the weather for blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know I meant blah, blah, blah. And it'll kind of pick up on that. You can follow up with questions. So if I say, what is the weather what is the weather for Minneapolis? And then I say, well, what will it be there next week? Or, so it can do more follow-up stuff. So it's really playing catch up. So we're going to have to see how good it is. But it's going to be at least trying to catch up with everybody else a little bit at this point. They have this sort of this smart thing where you don't have to go into full do not disturb mode. You can go into like a minimize notifications thing where I think you can kind of specify what types or what app notifications you want to let through. So you can pretty much be on do not disturb, but if something really critical comes up, like they gave the example of, oh, your kid's in school and you don't want to be disturbed, but maybe your kid gets sick halfway through the day so they call you or whatever. So something like that. Let's see. They have a system-wide sort of writing tool, so you can have it generate text for you. Again, there's your generative AI. You have more of like a spell check or correcting your grammar, kind of like a Grammarly thing. And apparently this isn't just for Apple apps. There's APIs, so third-party apps can also support these writing tools system-wide, which is good. That was going to be my worry, and that is still sort of my semi-concern, is all of the stuff that they showed for this AI, for the most part, they showed it with their own apps, understandably so. But I want to know, like I said, even like with shortcuts, they're cool, but they're so limited in a way. And I would love to be able to use some of this Apple Intelligence or this AI stuff with some of my apps that I regularly use, whether it's YouTube or Google Music or YouTube Music or any of my AT apps. Like I want to quickly trigger something with, maybe I'm looking on the website and I just literally trigger Siri and I go, hey, recognize this with Seeing AI, or recognize this with Be My Eyes. And I don't have to go through the share sheet, scroll down and find who knows where it's going to be in the list today. Which I really wish you could customize the share sheet. Like you really, like, especially though, like you have your contacts on the top row, and then the second row, it just lists like a lot of the apps that it might work with primarily. I wish I could, and then you have some that are in the menus, you have some that are in the more area, depending on where you're sharing from. And I really wish there was a way. I know they have some customization, but not enough. Like, I want to pin Voice Dream Reader, and I want to pin Be My Eyes, maybe even in the Envision Assistant. And if I could pin maybe Seeing AI, if I could pin those 4 apps, because I share stuff to them all the time. And every time I either got to go to the, like for Voice Dream, I almost always have to go to the More button on the row. Be My Eyes, I have to scroll, like, because I got tons of apps on my phone, I got to scroll several screens down on the vertical menu to find it usually. Like, I really wish that I had more control over that. But anyway, sidetrack aside. Image generation and modification. So it's not quite like everyone else is doing, but you can, I guess you can kind of generate like certain like emojis or simple pictures, because they have a couple of, so they have like a sketch, illustration, or simple animation categories that you can choose. You can also modify like existing images, I guess. Like they showed like adding party things like, party hats or balloons to somebody's existing picture if you want to send that to them and wish them happy birthday, or you want to put a superhero cape on somebody with an existing picture or whatever. Things like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I think I would use really very often, but especially, as visual as people are, and everyone's on Instagram and Facebook and all these other things that I generally don't care about. I mean, sure, people who do that kind of stuff, they'll love it. This next thing I think will be actually pretty handy. Having your AI be able to, and a lot of this stuff I'm talking about so far is on device. So for this stuff, you really don't have to go to the cloud much, if at all. But the thing they talked about that I think would be helpful is using your apps to finding information in apps. So whether it's mail, messages, a document, whatever. And I can think of a few times where, like, instead of having, like, let's say I bought a piece of technology about a year ago and I put it in my receipts folder, and since then I probably have 50 messages in there. I don't remember exactly what the email address where they sent me the receipt was from. I thought it was from this company, but their email address is weird. I could be like, I'll just use the example of like, bring up the message. I think it was in the middle of 2024. I bought these Ray-Ban glasses, and it could bring that up. Or I remember recently I was trying to find a message. I don't know if it was like a year, 2 years ago or whatever. I couldn't remember if it was an email or a text. I thought it was a text, but I couldn't find it, and I literally had to contact my friend again. I'm like, because he had these DVD binders that were really nice, and I was thinking about ordering some, but it had been, like I said, at least a year or two since he sent me that info, and I had no idea where it was. But if I could say, hey, pull up that link where Chris sent me the information about those binders on Amazon, those DVD binders on Amazon. And if they could do that in like 2 seconds instead of me wasting 20 minutes trying to find the email and actually never finding it, or the message and never finding it, that would be really helpful, actually. Then like I said, they really focused a lot on privacy. A lot of this stuff is happening on the device. It's not having to go to the cloud for some of this stuff. But if you do need to go to the cloud, I guess they have their own servers, and they're communicating directly with other places. So like they're adding different models, I guess, and like they have to go through this verification process basically every so often or continuously or whatever. I don't know the whole spiel, but basically they're trying to keep it private, and your information private, and make sure that, even though a company says that they're not storing your data or your information, they're theoretically checking through some verification process that in fact they are telling the truth and that your data is not being saved. No idea if that's accurate or how well that would work. I don't know, but in theory, again, me, it sounds good, but I'm taking that with a huge grain of salt. That's that private cloud thing that they talked about. And now they did say, again, if you want to generate, if you want to use more powerful models off device, they are partnering with ChatGPT. So in the examples they showed, it seemed like you had to give it permission every time. I hope that there's an option to be like, okay, when I'm using this app, or if I'm using from this contact or whatever it is, I hope there's a way that where I can say, don't ask me all the time, but when I'm using this app or if I'm doing this type of task, don't ask me every single time if I'm sure that I want to use ChatGPT. And they did say that they were going to work with other third-party models, and this is where I think it gets interesting. Because let's say Apple partnered with, I'll use Be My Eyes, because it's a really, it's kind of like the AI product that a lot of blind people are using these days. If they integrated that directly with Siri, so I could literally just say, and I don't know how it would integrate if I would have to say things a little bit differently, but if I could literally just use the Siri button, not even have to open up Be My Eyes, but I could literally just I could hold my phone and say, what am I looking at? And it would know to, open up Sing AI, take the picture, or, whatever it does. Or, I don't know, I'm just curious how and when they might integrate with some of these assistive technology accessibility AI models, because that could be really interesting. So they said this is just the beginning, there's more. There was nothing, they didn't do anything with live video, so if anything, that's going to be probably at least a year or two out. We're going to have to rely on third-party stuff for that, because I know Google did, the Google focused on that. ChatGPT focused on that. So yeah, it's a good start. Let me see if there's anything else I wrote on AI thing here. Yeah, other AI models. Oh, and then they did mention, they just kind of breezed through it, but they did say on the Notes app, you're going to be able to use your microphone now to record. Let's say you want to record a meeting or a lecture or a class, and it'll transcribe that into text. So that's probably going to piss off a few other apps like Just Press Record or Noted. I remember I used that a while back off and on, but I guess they're adding that so I can literally just record something. Now that would be cool if I could just use like the Voice Memos app, and then I could just say, hey, transcribe this, and then it would just dump it into a note or something. But I don't know. I'd be kind of curious to see how that works. But that, I believe, is... yeah, that is Apple's WWDC, and we have finally reached the end of the major tech and gaming events of this past weekend. I know there was a lot of littler ones that I didn't cover, but overall, I would say it was a pretty positive weekend. The Xbox event was solid. Very impressive compared to what I was expecting it was going to be. Summer Game Fest was pretty underwhelming. There were a few interesting things in there, which I did, by the way, I haven't heard back from him too much, but he did have some initial sort of interest. The Killer Bean game that I talked about, I did reach out to the developer on Twitter, and so I am conversing with him. So I don't know what, if anything, or what will happen, but there is potential that he may be able to make some accessibility considerations. So we'll see. But yeah, Summer Game Fest was pretty disappointing overall. Meh. Middle of the road. Microsoft was great. Um, Zlim's FPS show was great. And, Apple was really about what I expected. The first half where they talked about all their platforms was their usual spiel, nothing really that groundbreaking, nothing super exciting, but I'm sure they'll add up to something pretty cool. That was pretty normal, but what we all really wanted to know is what or how would they be implementing all this AI stuff. And what they showed was for sure playing a lot of catch up with everybody else. And even then, I don't know if they're really going to, match Google where they are right now, or even Microsoft where they are right now. But, I think it was a good first effort. And the stuff that's there, I do like some of how they're sort of trying to personalize it to you. And if it's on device, especially, you get a a lot of this AI stuff, you have to have an iPhone 15. I think it's a 15 or a 15 Pro in order to use it, or you have to have an M1 or later iPad to use it. So I will be updating my phone more than likely this fall. I will be getting the iPhone 16, probably Pro Max when it comes out later this year. But you have that fast of a device, you can process that all locally. I mean, heck, that sounds pretty cool. But it's about where I expected it to be. At least hopefully Siri will be better. It won't saying and wanting to do better. And I really, really hope that it integrates with other apps better, not just Apple stuff. I hope they don't make it difficult. I hope they don't restrict it too badly so that AI can take advantage of and just, perform different actions given your command or on your behalf when you need to. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that stuff shapes out. I might just install it on the developer beta on my M1 iPad because I really don't do much with that these days. I play a few games on it and maybe watch a couple of videos, but it's mainly just a couple of I play a couple of simple games on it while I'm reading a book or listening to podcasts. That's mainly what I use my iPad for these days. So I think I can afford to put the beta of iOS 8, or iPad OS 18 on my M1 iPad. So we'll see. But there we go, guys. I am done. We are done. I have done a lot of talking this weekend, covered a lot of events, given you guys the cool Ray-Ban review, got the Ubisoft bonus thingy for you from the other day. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed all of these videos, even though I know they're pretty long, but hopefully it gave you some of the information you were hoping to hear. Give the video a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and of course right here on YouTube. Plenty more to come. Loads of games, loads of tech, loads of stuff to cover. So stay tuned. The channel won't be going anywhere, won't be slowing down. Lots more to come. Until next time, I will chat with everybody later.